have now tuned into Insight Sundays, the show that brings you relevant news, youth topics with a new mission and focus for our communities. Here is your host, Adrian Mickens.
What's going on, Indianapolis? And welcome to another edition of Insight Sundays right here on AM 1310, The Light. As always, we have to give a shout out to all of our sponsors, which are Andrew J. Brown Academy, Indiana Christian Leadership Conference, or ICLC, Buttons and Bows Hair Salon, Bethesda Temple Southeast Campus, New Vision Lighthouse Ministries, Hair Artistry Indy, Inner Beauty Program Incorporated, New Breed of Youth, Lighthouse Academy Charter School South, Sam Ash Music Store, and Beach Grove Bible Church. All right, Indianapolis, as always, you can catch us live on Facebook. Once again, that is live on Facebook at Insight Sundays, where we always do a simulcast and stream the show. You can also catch us on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat, all at the name of Insight Sundays. And this is our 1-year anniversary. We have been on air now for a full year, so I greatly appreciate, once again, if you guys were on Facebook today, you probably guys have seen that post, but a thank you to all of our fans who view and watch every week. We appreciate it. We also appreciate all of our sponsors who help us keep this program running. So, as always, we're going to jump right into the show. We're going to have a special show today. It's going to be entitled The Perfect Union. In studio today, we have some of my favorite people in the house, but they've also have been married now for a decade, and I was blessed enough to see them get married 10 years ago, too, as well. We're going to start here and just work our way around. You guys can state your name.
Dedrick Murphy.
Put the mic a little bit closer.
Dedrick Murphy.
Yep.
And Jennifer Murphy.
All right. And for some of you guys who do not know, but I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys do know, I have recently gotten married myself, and my wife here is in studio today with a new last name.
Danielle Mickens.
All right, so today's show, we're going to be talking about marriage and relationships. The title of the show is kind of an irony title because there's no such thing as a perfect person. But we try our best, and we strive every day to try to create that perfect union under God's leadership too as well. So I'm going to just make some questions, and we're just going to just kind of fill it in. Maybe there's a couple out there who's listening, who's not married but thinking about it, or maybe there's a marriage out there who's just kind of on the rocks, and maybe they just need some help and some tips to keep the flame going for the next 60, 50, or ever so many years God has blessed them to stay together. One of the first questions I have is how to find out what makes your partner happy with compromising and understanding. Who wants to chime in on that one first?
Okay, I guess I'll just jump right on in. I think it's very important, even just starting out, is trying to develop a friendship. Even prior to marriage, you just really want to get to know who the person is. And I'm not saying you can't just fall in love with somebody and get married the next day, but that's not my recommendation. I think you should get to know the person while you're dating and really develop that friendship. I think friendship is the foundation to any marriage, and it can really make it last a long time when you really enjoy the person you're with. So I say develop a friendship, really get to know who that person is, what makes them tick, what makes them, happy, what makes them sad. Really learning those things will give you the advantage that you need as you're gearing up for marriage. And then even while you're married, continuing those conversations so that you don't forget about your partner.
All right. You got some feedback on that one, or you want a new question? Or
Yeah, let's move on.
Okay.
I think she covered that.
All right. Well, let me ask you this one, Mr. Murph. Checking your partner's self-esteem level. I know a lot of people, sometimes they get into the mix with somebody, and basically that question is stating, when you know who you are as an individual, that's when you know that you can walk into relationships. And I think that sometimes a lot of people walk into relationships and they haven't gotten themselves together yet. And that can damage, somebody else. I know that you work with a lot of the young men here in the city.
Yes.
He does an awesome job. So if you guys ever need a mentor or coach, definitely we'll get the number and information out at the end of the program. But what would you state, on that, on self-esteem level, men and women for that matter?
Well, first, I think personally, we should always know that we are fearfully and wonderfully made, first of all. Second of all, I think just constantly complimenting your wife, constantly complimenting your mate. And if they make mistakes, if they fail, don't hold it over their heads.
Yeah.
Just continue to let them know that they are human, and that they, just be their biggest cheerleader. In other words, just be their biggest cheerleader. I think the self-esteem, will come.
Okay. All right, Mrs. Mickens, I'm gonna swing around to you, darling. I want to ask you this question. Learning the love language rules to your partner. I know in the beginning we definitely had to learn that a lot about the love language. So learning my love language and still learning, I guess, to a degree. How was that? Or what advice would you give, I should say, with learning love language?
I was going to say, how was that? My advice to learning someone's love language is to be able to accept people for who they are. Don't try to change anybody to what you feel like you should mold them to be, because God made them that way uniquely for that purpose. And what their love language may be, you just have to adjust yourself, so that they can also adjust themselves to your love language. But really, it's just accepting that person for who they are.
Did you guys have that, because I know you guys were married for 10 years, so
definitely.
different love language.
Absolutely. And I think as an individual, even bouncing back to the self-esteem question, I don't think you should go into a marriage not knowing who you are. I think it's very important for you to try to discover, okay, who am I? What do I want? What do I like? Because if you join together with someone and you don't even know what you like and what you want, how is that person supposed to come in and even compliment you on that journey? It makes it very difficult. So yes, identifying what is my love language, what things do I like? Do I like physical touch? Do I like gifts of service, or words of affirmation?
That was me. And Danielle is all action. I like words of affirmation. She's all action.
I love action and gifts of service. I mean, I love
gifts.
Acts of service. Is it acts of service? But I love when I come home and my husband has washed the dishes, because that's one less thing that I have to do, and that means that's more time that I'll have for him. And so. Amen. Exactly. So if he's helping me, around the house, those things make my heart feel really glad, and it takes pressure off, because being a mom, being a wife, being a businesswoman, all of those things, can become very taxing. But when you have a partner who supports you and pours into you and helps you, along the way, it really makes the journey worthwhile.
All right. So Indianapolis, on that note, we're going to take a quick commercial break. As always, once again, you can catch us live on Facebook at Insight Sundays, Twitter, Snapchat, or Instagram, and we will be right back. Indianapolis to Insight Sundays. Once again, you can find us live on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, or Instagram, all at the title name of Insight Sundays. And as I stated before in the beginning of the broadcast, this is our 1-year anniversary. So once again, I want to thank all of our fans who view our show and listen to our show every week, and also to all of our sponsors who help keep us running every month. All right, so we're going to chime right back into the show today. The title of our show is The Perfect Union, and we're talking about marriage and relationship building. All right, so we're going to go to this next question here that I think is a pretty good one, and that is learning how to exchange your pride for peace and understanding. Once again, that is learning how to exchange your pride for peace and understanding. Who wants to start off with this?
Well, I think I'm going to jump in here.
Okay.
I think every husband should try his best to, control the temperature in his home.
Oh, yeah.
So try to keep that peace going. Also, as far as pride is concerned, we know as Christian men and women that God hates pride. That's why Satan was kicked out of heaven. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Before that thing called pride.
Yep.
So we want to check pride early in our relationships. As far as the what was the question? The compromise.
Exchange for peace and understanding.
Yeah.
And the direct question, from my point of view for that question is, how, and it's just a natural thing. When two people have disagreements,
right,
automatically pride gets involved because you're dealing with two people who's used to doing things in a certain way, a particular way, their way, or maybe it was a family way, when you're putting, enjoying the union together. So, when you take your pride out of it, is that person that you're in love with worth that peace and understanding? For me, it is.
Yes, most definitely. Yeah. Most definitely.
Absolutely. And I think, the Bible tells us when pride comes, then shame. Pride comes, and what's the scripture?
Pride comes before destruction.
Yeah. Pride comes when there's a proud spirit in the house. Then you got to know that there's going to be some consequences that follows that. So you really want to, like my husband said, check pride at the door. When there are disagreements, you're going to have to learn how to forgive quickly. When you're in a marriage, you really want to be able to move past those disagreements. And some things are easier said than done, but that's what marriage is all about. It's about compromise. It's about, sometimes having to take that back seat when you want to be right. And sometimes you may be right, but you may have to be the bigger person and say, hey, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I spoke to you that way. I'm sorry that I approached it that way. And that way, the peace is sure to follow right after that, And so I think that's very important to check pride at the door, forgive quickly.
Yeah, that's we do that in our home.
Yes.
I learned it early to never go to sleep angry,
Absolutely.
And also, what was the second part of that question you said?
About peace or being at peace?
I lost my train of thought.
It's all right.
No.
Pride comes before fall.
Forgiveness.
That's what I
know where I was going with it. Forgiveness. When she was talking about forgiving, I've also learned that forgiveness is for you.
Oh yes.
Absolutely.
You have to learn to forgive, and also know that forgiveness is not a feeling. It's a decision.
That's right.
It's a decision. It's not about what you feel. So you can forgive your mate and sit around the house, and you may not feel like you want to talk to her. You may not feel like you've forgiven her, but it's not about your feelings. It's a decision you have to make.
Absolutely. Good.
Well, I wanna chime in on that.
All right, Miss
because I also believe in picking and choosing your battles.
Yes.
You gotta choose them wisely. Some things are not necessary to have a battle for, so there would be no reason for pride to even come and destroy you.
That's true.
And then there's sometimes you might have to battle it out. You know how we do. Some things we have to in order to grow each other.
Absolutely.
That's very true.
And that's where effective communication comes in at. When you are going through those types of dialogues with each other, always remember one thing I learned is that to repeat her question back to her to make sure I fully understand what she's saying and not just go off on a tangent just thinking I'm answering her question when it may not have anything to do with what she was just asking me. But to repeat that question back to her to get that understanding.
All right, I'm going to kind of piggyback with this question here, and I'm going to answer this one because they was getting on me during break. So I'm going to answer this question here. And that is remembering to stay in tune with your partner's growth. I'm going to say that again for everybody so everybody can hear me out there on Facebook land and on air. Remembering to stay in tune with your partner's growth. Relationships and marriage is like cars. You have to tune it up.
and you have to do routine maintenance on it all the time. Life never stays the same. Some things may look the same, but things always change, especially work-wise. Your partner's work and different things like that. And I try to stay in tune as much as possible with Danielle's growth in the hair industry. She's a hairstylist. Okay. Her industry changes all the time, and she always comes up with new and innovative ideas all the time. She'll wake me up at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning looking at a whole website of new and innovative ideas that she has. But it is my job, and I try to make sure to do as my job as a man to stay in tune with her growth and where she's going. Because that's when jealousy, can come into play and different things like that. And someone feels like somebody is outgrowing the other. So you have to stay in tune with the growth of your partner. So that's one of mine. I don't know if you guys want to chime in on that one.
That's really good. That's really good. Also, in just continuing on with that, as you grow in marriage, like you said, Dedrick and I are celebrating 10 years this year. And, where I was 10 years ago, I'm definitely not there anymore. So making sure you are, definitely on a ongoing basis, maintaining the relationship, making sure that you are constantly in communication, letting your partner know, hey, this is what I like now. And you have to communicate that. We as women, we cannot just believe that our husbands or, our partners will know exactly where we are or what we like. We have to communicate that. They're not mind readers. We want them to be, but they're not. And so I found with my husband, just making sure that he knows this is where I am now. And as long as I communicate that with him, then even if he's not knowledgeable about where I am, he's going to do the research. He's going to do the work to find out, okay, this is what my wife like now. So let me find out more about that so that when I come to him, he can give me, sound advice or wisdom, because he is the leader of our home. So I still have to bring things to him, and I love how you said that about the car. Just, you do have to maintain a relationship ongoing. It's an ongoing thing.
Yeah. No, Rich. Did you want to chime in on that one, Mrs. Mick?
You got it.
I hit the nail on the coffin. No. I mean, that's true. I mean, even I'll just kind of tell her in on that one just last before I go to the next question. Even with what I'm doing, in communications in media, from day one, Danielle, she's never wanted to be in media or communications, but she's always supported what I do, and she understands this is it's very tricky, specifically, everything that I do, but she understands it and she respects it. And I can't beat that. Like, I couldn't beat it with a stick. She truly does. And for everybody who doesn't know, the intro to the show is Danielle. She does a lot of behind the scene works that nobody ever knows that she does. She gets as close as she can.
Right.
But not actually do it. So I love it. I really do. I love it. Another one of the questions I had, well, it's not really a question, it's a statement, and this is for a lot of the younger couples who kind of always make this mistake in the beginning or sometimes earlier on in their relationship and never even make it to marriage. And that is making intercourse the resolution to all problems instead of putting God in the mix. And I'll just say maybe a 30-second thing. From day number one, me and Danielle has always put God number one in our relationship. We prayed together. We did everything together. And I think it's a lost art, but I want to know you guys' opinion on that. We got about 2 minutes if you guys want to chime in.
Well, I'm going to let her answer that question, but I want to piggyback on what the question we just had is. I think every man, every mate, every married couple should study their word and also study your mate, because they both are hard to understand. So that they let that be continuing, go, throughout your marriage. Always study your mate. Listen closely and study your word,
Absolutely.
Yes, so we're talking about intimacy?
Making intercourse the resolution to all problems. And if you can give it like 30 seconds, 45 seconds, if you can.
Yes, so I definitely think intercourse should be the after effect of a relationship. It should never be at the forefront. Intercourse, God ordained sex for marriage. So I always think that it should be in that order, because when it's not, that's when the confusion comes. That's when the cloudiness comes, because when you are intimate with a person, you actually join together with them. So everything that was their problem becomes your problem. And when you do that prior to marriage, you allow a lot of confusion and a lot of different feelings to arise that maybe should have stayed dead until after marriage. And that's why a lot of people don't get to marriage, because they awaken that love before it's time.
All right. Well, once again, everybody, we appreciate everybody for tuning in and listening to Insight Sundays right here on AM 1310 The Light. Thank you for all of our Facebook Live viewers, too, as well. We appreciate you guys. Once again, this was our 1-year anniversary, and we appreciate our guest that was in the house today talking about the perfect union. Remember, no person is perfect, but you guys can work together to strive to create that perfect union as much as possible. Thank you to my beautiful wife who is in studio today, Mrs. Danielle Mickens, and we will check you guys out next week.